without much further ado, I'm just going to go through and read out Dennis's intro because it seemed pretty cool. I looked at it. So the questions he has for us are, have you ever felt squeezed from all sides? Is there pressure to perform, but at times there are roadblocks in the way? Are you stressed out because you waste your time in other people's drama? If you answered yes to these questions, you're in the right session and we're about to take off. So with that being said, if you answered no, I guess you're in serious denial. So our speaker today is the author of The 8 Qualities of Drama-Free Teens, a Border Collie owner, and a Clemson Tiger fan. He's the husband of Lisa McIntee, the most beautiful woman in America, and the father of 4 children. And he's got the pictures to prove it.
Pictures, that's right.
We expect to see those, you realize.
Yes,
Okay.
Right.
He travels the country helping leaders take the drama out of their organizations. While his passion is helping people win the game of work and the business of life, he secretly grew up wanting to be a jazz, how do I say this, trombonist? Is that the right way to say it?
Jazz trombonist.
Jazz trombonist. All right, please welcome Dennis McIntee.
Here we are. And the crowd goes crazy. Hey, listen, thank you guys for being here live. Thank you guys for being here virtual. And it's really crazy times. I wanted to start off my session with a quick question. What do you say, do dogs like bones? What do you say, do dogs like live? Do dogs like bones?
Yeah.
Well, what do you say in the chat? Put in the chat, do dogs like bones? What do you think? Dogs like bones. So, and if you're like most people, they're going to say, well, yeah, absolutely, like dogs like bones. So I did this particular science project. So we have a border collie. She's white. She stands about this tall, bright blue eyes. And I brought her in a while back ago. And I said, come, Allie, come. And she came into the kitchen and I said, sit, sit. And I pulled out a bone and I waved it at her. I said, sit, sit. And I went to one end of the kitchen and I laid that one down. I said, sit, Allie, sit. And then I went to the refrigerator and I pulled out a piece of steak. I pulled that piece of steak out. I put it on the other end of the kitchen. I said, sit, Allie. I said, okay, ready, go. Where do you think Allie went?
Steak.
Steak, steak. So live we say steak. What do you guys say virtually if you're there on Zoom? What do you say? Got to put it in. Type fast for us, okay? Okay. Yep. Cindy says steak, right? So with the steak. Now here's what I'm going to propose to you today. Okay. I'm going to propose to you today that dogs truly, truly love steak, but they settle for bones. And what happens sometimes is we're working with our teams and, hey, welcome, come on. No, come on in. We're so glad you're here. And your name is? Connie. Ladies and gentlemen, Connie just showed up.
Hey,
Okay?
I was getting dinner ready.
Thank
The bar is set up. We're good.
See what you're missing when you're not here like live? We're totally glad you're here, right? We totally understand with, the new COVID world. So that was a little breakup. So, but here's the point, is that dogs truly, truly love steak, but they settle for bones. And I think if we're not careful, we end up settling sometimes. They did this survey, and and I don't know who does these surveys, right? They pay to do these surveys, and it's amazing. And I don't even remember this one, but it was fleas in a jar. Have you guys seen like the fleas in a jar?
No.
Right. So here's how it kind of goes. Right. So this is my best jar that I got right here. So I got this jar right here. Okay, it's got a lid on the jar. There's my lid right there on the jar. So it got all these fleas in the jar, and fleas do what fleas do. Fleas jump. So what's happening? These fleas would jump and they hit the top, hit the top, hit the top, hit the top. But then what they realized is after about a week, the fleas just stopped going all the way to the top. They just started to go right here, and then they did something amazing. They took the jar, they took the lid, and they took the lid off. And what do you think the fleas did? Fleas stayed in the jar. Right. And what happens is many times, and sort of the point is that when we're working with people, we said, we sort of have these ideas, well, of course there's going to be drama. Well, of course, they act like, they act like, children, so we treat them like children, right? And so we just start to settle. And here's the point, is that your brain only goes to work on what it believes is possible. If you're writing notes, it's a write or down. Your brain only goes to work on what it believes is possible. So if you're sitting here today and you go, well, of course there's drama. Listen, I don't even know if I can help you. Okay, so if we're not careful, we end up with this phenomena I call quit but stay. You know what quit but stay is? Quit but stay is like this idea. We're passing out paper. TJ needs some paper. So if you're there, have some paper, grab a pen. We're passing out paper here live. So just kind of bear with us.
I'm giving TJ pretty paper.
I'm giving TJ pretty paper. It's coming out. Okay.
Let's see what pretty paper I have.
So, but kind of the point is that if we're not careful, there's this phenomenon in teams, it's called quit but stay, where it's like, hey, this person really quit like 5 years ago, but they're here still here getting a paycheck, right? They quit emotionally. And leadership is really all about getting the things I can't pay for, right? Because if I'm paying you, right, and I'm managing you, I can get your time, right? I'm paying you, you're there 8 to 5, 7 to 4, whatever hours are, right? You do your job, but what I can't pay for is I can't pay for your engagement. I can't pay for your heart. And it's sort of like, that's what we want to go after. We want to go after the heart. Guess what that is right there?
That looks a moose.
No, that's called a hand. I don't get paid to draw or I would starve. Okay? So that's just work with me, okay? Just work with me today, all right? So in leadership is all about getting this heart. Management is all about this hand. So today's session, what we want to talk about is we want to talk about how do we increase our leadership so that we get confident, creative, collaborative teams. Because the more confident people are, the more they're going to step in and do hard things. The more creative people are, the more fun you're going to have at work. The more collaborative people are, the more peace we're going to have. And that's the goal today. Now, I'm going to say something super, super hard, okay? And it's probably going to make everybody on the Zoom call mad. If you're here live, just don't give me angry eyes, okay? Because it's going to hurt my feelings, right? So just a lot. On Zoom, you can give me angry eyes, but here's my statement, okay? Ready? Here we go. There are no bad teams. There are just bad leaders. There are no bad. Now, I hate that statement. That totally sucks. Right. And so now I know, like, maybe some of you are thinking, well, I have to keep them on. We don't have anybody else. I mean, we got all this work to do, and whatever it is, kind of reasons that you give. Okay. There are no bad teams. There are just bad leaders. So I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. All right. And then at the end of the presentation, when we're all done, I just want you to say, hey, do you agree with me? Do you disagree? And then we can have an argument. But just wait till the end of the presentation, and then we can have an argument. So go ahead and put in the chat if you're on Zoom, and I'm going to get started. But I want to know, when it comes to managing people, what's the biggest challenge that you face? So we're just going to ask everybody on Zoom. We're going to take a live survey in just a minute, but just go ahead and get that on chat, and Krupa's just going to just start to kind of collect those data points for us. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, hopefully you've got the blueprint with you. Hopefully you downloaded it, or
Yes, I believe Christine shared it on the chat all the way up top.
okay, all right. And so listen, here's the benefit of being on Zoom. You actually get the handout, because guess what? The people that are live, they didn't get the handout. So if on Zoom, it's even better, right? So you get a better experience, right, than even people live. So sometimes you're thinking like, well, man, I wish I was live. Well, listen, you're getting a better experience. So I did want to just kind of start off by, yes, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, but probably what I'm most proud of is this group of people right here. This is my wife, Lisa. She's been married to me for 30 years. She's a total saint. And then our oldest is a software designer. He's 28, and then our other son is married, and he's 24. Get this right. My daughter is a Clemson senior. She's 21. And then my son is a Clemson freshman. Go Tigers. And so, and here's how I became a Clemson Tiger fan. All of my money went to Clemson. Right? All my money goes to Clemson, and I figure like, hey, I can now be a fan. Okay. But so as we go through this presentation, the reason I wanted to share this with you is a lot of times when I do my talks, people say, well, Dennis, are you talking about personally, or are you talking about professional? And I just say yes. I say yes, because when you get better personally, you get better professionally. And when you get better professionally, you always get better personally. So my goal today is to give you some ideas and techniques that you can use with your kids, you can use with your teams, you can use with your spouse, you can use with your friends. We're just going to give you some different strategies on how to eliminate some of the drama that happens. Because here's the deal, is that every time you don't hit a goal, every time you have a failure, you can trace it back to drama. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. But every time you don't hit a goal, drama is in play. Every time you don't hit a sales goal, there's going to be drama in play. Every time your team doesn't execute, there's going to be drama at play. Anybody here tired of the excuses? Yes or no? On Zoom, are you tired of the excuses? We'll say, put it in the chat there for us.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Tina is tired of the excuses. So probably towards the end, I'm going to give you the excuse buster formula. So we've actually created a formula that eliminates all of the excuses. And so we're going to kind of show that. We'll give that to you for free. Okay, but I just want to share this right here with you because I think real success is like the people that know you the best still love and respect you. And what I have realized is that who you are in the dark is who you really are. And you know, these people really know me really well, and they still love and respect me because here's what happens as leaders is that how we do everything is how we do anything, which means like it's ridiculous for me to think like I scream at my wife, I kick the dog, I yell at the kids. I don't come into work being Mr. Happy, right? Because how I do anything is how I do everything. And that's why I want you to take some of these principles and go, okay, I can apply that person. Okay, I can apply that profession. Because I don't know about you guys, but here's my biggest challenge. My biggest issue, I'm just going to lay it out on the table. Okay, here it is. My biggest problem is everywhere I go, there I am. Anybody have that problem? Right? How about on Zoom, guys? You guys got that problem, right? Everywhere I go, there I am. And so the goal is to get better personally, because what I do flows out of who I am. That's a great writer, Donna. What I do flows out of who I am, right? Which means if you want your business to grow, who's the first person that's got to grow? You've got to grow, right? Take whatever revenue number you're at right now, okay? And the reason you're at that revenue number is because that's as big as how you, that's your growth limit right there. And so if you want to like think about like, hey, we want to double our business. Well, what do you need to do to double? And I forget. So one of my clients is a civil engineering firm in the Bay Area, and I was just there a couple weeks ago during their strategic planning meeting in January. And so they have this gigantic number, right? They want to grow like by 20%, and you know they threw this number out there, and then I said, okay, write me the org chart for that number. And they're about 250 employees. And to do this number, they're going to have to be to 400 employees and open up a new office. And then I looked around the room at the partners and I said, what are you guys going to do to change? Right? Because it's like we can throw these numbers out there. Like we do a lot of like EOS implementation with groups, right? We throw these numbers out there and we say, we want to go this way. But we got to step back and go, okay, what do I need to do to grow? So let's go through. Here's what I thought today. I thought today for EO Las Vegas and EO everywhere, right? EO everywhere. So just put in the chat, where are you from? I know, like, you know, Las Vegas is hosting it, and we want to say thank you, Krupa and Tom, and you know, for everybody here in Las Vegas, thank you for hosting. But put in the chat. New York is in the town, Toronto, Calgary, Austin, San Diego. I want to come to San Diego. Invite me to San Diego. Iowa. I was almost in Iowa. It didn't work out for dates. Mexico, Chicagoland, EODC, San Diego. Yeah, come on out. South Carolina. Hey, where are you from, Leah, in South Carolina? Mexico, Vegas all day. Okay, so we're from everywhere. Somerville. Okay, I'm from Greenville. So where was I going with that? Okay, so here's what I thought. Okay, I thought, let me take the top 5 frameworks. These are the top 5 frameworks, and we've got over 50 frameworks that we've developed that we use in coaching with people. But these are the top 5 that our clients that we work with, they said, Dennis, these are the ones that have made the biggest difference. So that's what I thought. Okay, so let's just kind of go through it. So I'm sure you've seen this. This has been super, super popular. but there's always this gap between, hey, what I know and then what I do. Has everybody seen that? Right? There's this gap between what I know and what I do. And here's what happens many times is, we come to these sessions, or listen, we read books, right? We try to get a lot of information. So we got this knowledge, we got this information, and you know what's in it? Hey, welcome guys, come on in. Hey, it's awesome. Yeah, crash it.
I can't
Hey, we got a
speak
new
to you.
live person.
Knock it over.
Awesome. Have a seat. What's your name?
Nevada.
What's that?
Nevada. just like
This
the
is
same.
making noise.
Nevada. Okay,
It turns
Nevada is in the
everything-
house. Everybody on chat, say hi to Nevada.
Hello.
It's Nevada. Awesome. So we're gonna keep going. So we've all seen this, right? Is that, knowledge, we've got all this knowledge, we're all about getting information, and we're all about trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I do this? Right? So how do I do this? How do I do this? Now, here's what I'm gonna tell you, is that if how-tos were enough, if all we ever needed in the world were how-tos, we would all be skinny, rich, and happy. Come on, am I not telling the truth? Right? That is totally the truth.
Yeah.
Right? You think about how many diet books are there in the world? Right? A bajillion, that's not even a word, right? How many books like on finances are there? Right? And how to save money, what to do with money, right? And then how many books are like on personal, self-development, right? So how-tos are not enough. So here's what we're gonna do to kind of like illustrate this point is take your writing hand. So if you write with your right hand, put your writing utensil in your left hand. Don't look at me that way. Krupp is giving me angry eyes. You can give me angry eyes, okay, but on Zoom, but you can't give it to me live. Okay, now this is all I think super easy, okay? This is super easy. Is I simply want you to write your name. Write your name. And Tom is leaving. Tom Andros just left. As soon as we gave a hard assignment, he walked out of the room.
Would you like it in cursive?
It is
You know
in cursive.
what? It's your name. Personalize the workshop, okay? Okay,
Nice.
so here's the question, and everybody live, everybody on Zoom kind of weigh in. How does it look? Sloppy. Okay, so we say it looks sloppy. Put it there on chat. How else does it look?
Looks the same.
Looks the same, okay? How else does it look? Come on, put it there in chat for us. Okay, so how does it feel? Put it in chat. How does it, what's it? Feels awkward,
Slow.
right? Yep, slow. Yep, what do we say? Like, oh, thank you, like a small child. Awesome. Yep. Oh, not proud. Now that's one I've never heard before. Not proud. How else does it feel? In other words, cartoonish. Okay, so here's what I want us to do. Okay, you just gave me this list of adjectives, and I simply want to know, is it logical or is it emotional? Is it logical or is it emotional? So if it's sloppy, is that emotional or logical? What do you guys say? What do you guys say live?
Emotional.
Yeah, it's emotional, right? Looks the same. I guess it's logical, right? Yeah, logical. Awkward, emotional, slow, emotional, right? Like a small child.
Very emotional.
Yeah, very emotional. Not proud,
Emotional.
very emotional. Cartoonish, very emotional. Okay, so what you just told me is you just told me all the reasons why you will not change. I want you to think about something. Now, here's the benefit of being live, because I actually do have a hammer in my bag. So here's what we're gonna do. And this is why you totally want to be on Zoom for this workshop. Because what's gonna happen at the end of the event is I'm gonna take out my hammer, okay, and we're just gonna smash everybody's writing in that's live. You guys didn't know that, right? We're gonna do that, right? Now, if you're on Zoom, see, you get a better experience. Okay, but just for example, say I did that, right? Say I took out everybody's writing hand, we just smashed it with a hammer, right? So after you sued me, and after you sued Tom, because we're doing it at his place, and maybe sued EO, after we got through all that litigation, right? Okay, what would happen a year from now with your opposite hand?
It'd get better.
Yeah, it would get better. It would look the same. And so the point is that most of your challenges are not logical. Most of your challenges are emotional. Well, you think about it, right? And even this list right here, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 out of 7 are logical that you gave me, which means most of the challenges that you face are emotional. All right, I said, how to's run up, we'd always skinny, rich, and happy. Right? It's like, I know what to do to lose weight, right? Eat less, exercise more. This is not rocket science. What's the problem? I just want my wine at night, right? It's like wine, cheese, right? It's like I see the burgers, I see the pizza. It's like I know I should not, have the pizza, and I eat the whole whole pie, right? It's totally emotional, which means that most of your challenges in dealing with people are emotional, and that's where all the drama comes. So here's where the emotion comes from. Okay, it comes from back here in the brainstem. Okay, all of the emotions from back here in the brainstem. And part of the tools that we're going to give you today is how to snap people to frontal cortex, how to snap people to place of logic. Now, here's what I want you to think about, is that when you get into the emotion, it's like you're on drugs. It's like you're on drugs. Anybody on the Zoom, here live, have you ever said something out of anger that you didn't mean to say? All right, and everybody that said no is just a liar. It's called a liar. Right, we've all done it. And so the point is that many times, so for example, I've got this client in Iowa. It's a large healthcare company. And so the charge nurse was going to bring in one of the ladies to have a crucial conversation. She needed to give her some feedback and have this conversation. And so that afternoon, I remember I called Katie. I got Katie on the phone. I said, well, Katie, how did it go? And she said, well, Dennis, she said, I brought her into my office and I started to talk to her and she threw down her hair. That's what I said, right? Everybody live is giving me weird looks. Like I'm on the other line. I'm going, now we got somebody from Iowa, so maybe this is that's what I thought. I thought, is this an Iowa thing? You throw down your hair in Iowa? Right? She said, no, you threw down her hair. I said, what do you mean she threw down her hair? She said, Dennis, she said, she got so mad that she started to yell at me. She said, and then she took off her wig. She said, I didn't even know she had a wig on. And she threw it on the ground, was stomping on the wig, bare head, yelling at me. She said, I had to call security. Right? I thought, we can't make this stuff up. And what happens is that when we get back here into this brainstem, we don't think clearly. And so what bridges this gap, and we're not going to talk about EQ necessarily, right? But what bridges this gap right here between what I know and what I do is always something emotional. And so part of today's presentation is first to help you deal with your own drama, but then we also want to give you some strategies on what to do with your team. Now I draw this in the form of a triangle so that you can go back here. It's called the pyramid of growth. And here are the 3 steps to continue to grow emotionally. So the first step, and I draw this in a triangle, and it spells ARM, which spells, help me live, what does it spell?
Arm.
Arm, right? Okay, here's what I want you to think about, is that your arm is your strength, right? The stronger my arm, the more I can do, the more I can lift, the more I can accomplish, the more productive I can be with strong arms. And that's what I want you to think about emotionally. How do you grow so that you can do more, be more? And the first step, A, is always awareness. So the first part of really growing this triangle is awareness. Now listen, if I am going west to see the sunrise, I do not need you to motivate me. I don't need you to pat me on the back. Well, keep going, you're doing awesome, right? The best news I need is like, hey, idiot, turn around. Because it doesn't matter how sincere, actually, it doesn't matter how hard I work, but if I'm going the wrong way, I don't need you to motivate me. The next thing I really need is I need awareness. Now here's a writer-downer, is that if you can't see it, you can't change it. If you can't see it, you can't change it. And the point is that you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. You can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. And all of us are in the bottle of our own behavior. And when you're emotionally connected to an outcome, and here's the thing, EOers, we are emotionally connected to our outcomes, right? Come on, let's tell the truth, right? It's like, we got to feed our families, right? I got to send my kids to college. I got all these team members that are looking to me for a paycheck. Come on, anybody feel that pressure?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that we are emotionally connected to this business. Now, here's the thing. You need to be emotionally connected, right? Because part of that emotion, think about this. Now, I'm not saying when I say drama-free, I'm not saying be emotionless, but I'm saying when you're drama-free, you know what to do with the emotion. But isn't that where all your emotion comes from? Is from emotion? Right, think about any change in your life. Didn't it first happen when you got really pissed off? Anybody here with me, right? It's like nothing changes. I tolerated, and then something happens, man, I just get pissed off. I'm like, that's it. Well, I want you to maybe like leave pissed off a little bit. Right? As you leave the Zoom, I want you to maybe leave a little bit pissed off, maybe kind of elevate that so that you get pissed off a little bit quicker. Because you've got to have it. So I'm not saying don't have emotion, because you need it to fuel you, but you've got to understand the flip side of that is that when you're emotionally connected, your focus is always fuzzy, right? Your clarity is always cloudy. And so part of what we need to have with this whole awareness piece is we need to figure out how to get feedback. So go to the seconds. Now, don't worry, I will come back to the first diagram. Okay, all of my OCD people are like, wait a minute, we didn't finish the first. Just work with me. Okay? And I simply want you to do this. Is just draw a box here with us live. Okay, that's you there on your diagram. And I simply want you to put a 1 right here on this axis and a 10 on this axis and a 10 down this axis. And we're just going to play a little bit of a game. Okay? I want you to rate along this axis. How much feedback do you get? So along this axis right here, just kind of put a mark, whatever you think it is. Most people say it's right there, but how much feedback do you get? Now, if you're in my workshops, you got to play my games. Okay? So that's part of the rule, play my games. Okay, so just give yourself a mark. And then simply along this axis, how much feedback do you get? Which means how much do you share your thoughts, your ideas, your creativity from 1 to 10? Now, most people say it's a 7, which is typically a lie, but whatever. Okay, you just give yourself a number. Okay, you just say what you think it is. And then I simply want you to do 4 quadrants. So do 4 quadrants. And if you're here with us live, I want to see what your quadrants are. Krupa, you're going to be a little upset, so I'm glad you're not sitting so close to me. What do you have?
I'm pretty tall, my reach is good.
You are going to be really upset. Yep. Awesome. Okay. So for example, it's like we got things like, can you see that? Where are we at? You're right there in the corner. Right there in the corner. Can you see that?
Here.
Oh, there it is. Right. So there's TJ's. TJ, we just uncovered you. I'm sorry.
Good.
Okay. I'll give you a free buck for doing that. Okay. So now let's talk about what these 4 boxes represent. How many people want to know what these 4 boxes represent, or how many people are just ready to go to dinner? Ready to go to dinner. Okay, yeah, got it. Us here, we want to go to dinner. Okay, so this box right here, however big it happens to be, is your open arena. It's what's open about you. Okay? This box right here, however big it happens to be, is your closed arena. It's what's closed about you. Now this box, and I'm not worried about necessarily how open, how closed, right? Some people are more private than others, not a problem. I really want to talk about these 2 boxes. So this box right here is your blind spot. It's what other people see about you, but you don't see. Now here's what's interesting about leadership. Okay, here's what I want you to think about. Okay, so we use these metaphors like we're climbing the ladder to success. Okay, so you think about it, like we got this ladder right here. So we're climbing this ladder. So here you are in your business, like you're way up here. I don't draw people. You're here, okay? You're up here. So all of your people are down here. I don't get paid to draw, or I would starve. Never invite me to draw, okay? It's a losing proposition. Okay, so we got this ladder to success. Here you are now. If I'm climbing the ladder to success, where am I focused? Where are my eyes?
Up.
Right, my eyes are up. If my people, and so I'm looking up, My people are down here. What are my people looking at?
Your booty.
They're looking at my butt, right? Do you realize that you cannot see your own butt? It is, you know it's there, right? You told me it's there, right? It's like it's back here. This is back here, right? It's like, and that's what nobody can see their own butt.
Yeah.
You can't see your own butt. And when you're emotionally connected, it's like you're in this bottle. So you need people that can help you see your butt. And here's what I've realized. It's the leaders with the smallest butts that win. We all have constraints, but it's the person with the fewest constraints that wins. The people with the fewest constraints, the people that have the courage to confront their constraints. Because here's the thing, you keep running from it, and guess what? It keeps chasing you.
Mhm.
And it takes courage to confront those things. It takes courage to confront those things in our life. So we got these blind spots. And then we have this word that is very interesting, is potential. Now, has potential ever done anything? What do you guys say live?
No.
Now, potential's never done anything, right? It's like, if you're 18 years old and someone says, man, you got a lot of potential, super good news. If you're 80 today and somebody says, hey, you got a lot of potential, not so good news, okay? And so potential has never done anything. Now, here's the point of this diagram, and honestly, this is not even a scientific study. You just did a self-assessment, right? I've got actually a scientific assessment that we use with leaders, but no matter how big your boxes are, here's the point. You want to continue, you want to get feedback and give feedback, get it, give it, get it, give it, so that this blind spot starts to shrink. And then all of this potential becomes out into the open. And the way that it happens is by the giving and getting of feedback. That's how it happens. Now, I do a couple things personally. So one thing that I do, there are two things that I may do, and I'll tell you the two things that I do. So one thing that I do is I'll take a talk like this. So when I'm on stage somewhere, I'll bring in a recording camera. I do this about once or twice a year, and I'll have them record my entire talk. And then I'll put it up on a private YouTube channel, and then I'll send it to about 20 other presenters that I know that have my back. And I'll say, hey, take a look at this and tell me what sucks about this. Tell me what's bad. And I gotta tell you, it's like a week from hell. It is like hell week, right? Because they say things like, well, Dennis, you said this and it makes you look so insecure. And I'm like, yeah, but everybody laughed, right? And they say, you do this thing with your hands and it makes you look weird. Like, what do you mean I do this thing with my hands? But the point is that it's made me such a better presenter. And so it's almost like the number one thing people need the most to get the least of is constructive feedback on their own behavior. So because of that, I also do another exercise. And I didn't put it in here, but we'll give this one to you for free. This is a free one, okay? Is I do a 2-2-2. So I'll send out an email to 20 people that know my behavior. Now listen, I send it out to people that know me personally and people that know me professionally. Because remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I guarantee you the constraints that you have in your business and your personal behavior are the same constraints that you have in your family. Right? Because everywhere I go, there I am. And here's a writer downer. Nothing changes until behavior changes. You can have all of the strategy in the world. Okay, in fact, I do a lot of strategic planning, right? But it's like, but if you don't have behavior, if you can't execute on it, it doesn't matter what you wrote down as your goals. So here's an idea for you, is I send out this email at least once a year and I say, hey, what are 2 things I need to stop doing? What are 2 things I need to start doing? And what are 2 things I need to continue to do? Because I'm trying to get some feedback. Now, I send out 20 with the hope of getting 10 back. If you get 10 back, that's really good. Now, how many people in the chat you'd say, hey, I'm going to do that exercise. I need to get some feedback. Maybe do it from clients, from customers, from your team, from some of your personal relationships. But put in the chat if you're going to do that. How many people here live are going to do that? Put you on the spot. There's only 6 of us. Okay, so about half the room. That's not bad. Okay, 90%. Okay, Robin, Oh, who is that?
Rodolfo?
Rodolfo. Hey, Rodolfo, you will do it. Awesome. Okay, so if you commit to doing this, here's the caveat, and I really kind of need to tell you this, okay? Is that if you do this and one person calls you a jackass, don't worry, right? There's an outlier, don't even worry about it. If 10 people call you a jackass, buy a saddle. Okay, so just go buy a saddle, all right? Because here's what you're gonna find. You're gonna find some consensus. You're gonna find some things that like, that sounds like what the other person wrote. Right, so you want stop, start, and continue, because continue is what you're already really good at. It's what you're already really probably very gifted at. And probably what'll happen on the continue is that you'll go, that's so easy. See, because part of the gifting that you have, part of like this ability that you have, is typically things that you think is easy that other people think is hard. The things that you think are easy, many times are what other people think is hard. And imagine if you could just build a business where all you did was what was easy. It's possible, right? The reason that we don't is because we don't build teams. And here's the thing. If you want to go fast, go alone. You can go super fast. Just go super fast. If you want to go really, really far, you have to build a team. If you want to go really far, you have to go deeper. For the first 10 years of my business, I just wanted to go fast. That was me and one assistant. And I was like, we were kind of capped out at certain points because like there's only so much of Dennis to go around. But man, we went fast. It was a lot of fun, right? We went super fast. It was, shotgunning, cowboy kind of. And then we started to build a team. And I realized, gosh, it's going a little slower, but we now have the ability to go a lot farther. And so if you want it, and so think about this whole thing. It's like, I think part of the goal is that we create businesses where we just do the things that we love to do. And the things that we don't love to do, we can delegate out. I realize that I'm no good with my calendar. I suck at calendars. I suck at email. One of the best things that I did was I gave up my email and I gave up my calendar. And in fact, when I tried to set an appointment 2 days ago on my calendar, and I got reprimanded by my team. Okay, what are you doing in your calendar? And the thing about it is, I messed up the appointment in a different time zone, right? And then I tried to do my rental car when I got here in Vegas, and I didn't do it right. I showed up at the ABIS desk at 6:30 at night, and they said, "Well, Mr. McIntee, your car wasn't going to be ready till 10 o'clock. That's when you said you wanted it." I said, dang. Right? And so it's the things that I'm not good at, but here's what's interesting. My assistant, she loves my email. She's so good at my email. She loves my calendar. Like she thinks in blocks of time. She just blocks it. And so it's almost like that's part of the goal of like building a team. It's like the things that I hate, the things that I'm not good at, and they're probably things that you're not good at. So instead of like just trying to be good at something that you're a weakness, because that's what happens a lot of us, right? We say, well, I'm not good at this, and I got to get better at this, I got better at this. No, it's like I'm probably like a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10 scheduling. I'm never going to be a 10. Right? So why don't I just find somebody who's a 7 and make them a 10 at that? And so, but many times people don't want to do it is because we don't want to deal with the drama. We don't know how to deal with the drama, right? The bigger the team, the bigger the drama, the bigger the communication. And so we want to go through some of those things. So the first goal is really awareness, okay? But that's not it. So first of all, I just want to know in the chat, what's been one takeaway? What's been one big takeaway so far from today? So just put it in the chat. And here live, we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to watch you guys in the chat put your stuff in too. So what do you guys say live? What's been a big takeaway? Get concept from Sean.
I have to elicit more feedback.
Yeah, you have to listen more feedback. So here's one way to kind of like think about feedback, is that I used to say, hey, Tom, do you have any feedback for me? 90% of the time people say, no, been great.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It was a great conversation, right? that was really helpful, right? Yeah, right. But I just changed the question and it changed everything. I started going to people and I say, hey, Tom, what feedback do you have for me? Right? Good or bad?
Yeah.
What feedback do you have for me? Tell me something. Right? And all of a sudden, that one question changed the dynamic. So this whole blind spot, what's another, keep putting in the chat, what's been a big takeaway for you? Purple, what about you? What was one takeaway for you?
This was more of a reminder, what I do flows out of who I am.
It kind of sucks, doesn't it? But here's the good news.
Yeah, then you have control though.
Exactly. Then you have control.
Yeah.
See, because part of it, think about it. If my problem is my wife, nothing I can do about that. Right? Watch it. If my problem is my team, guess what? No, I can't control their behavior. Right? But the problem always has to be me. And if the problem is me, what can I do? I can fix me. I know how to fix Dennis. I don't know how to fix Krupa or TJ or Tom, but boy, I know how to fix Dennis. And that's where it's always got to be me. Tom, what about you? What was the takeaway for you?
I like that blind spot eliminator matrix that you made there. It's a good takeaway for me.
Yeah, okay. And so I want us to think about, like, every time like you go up the ladder, guess what happens? More of your butt is shown. Down here, people don't see so much of your butt. Up here, they see a lot more. And that's what you got. This is part of the price of leadership. Part of the price. And here's why being a part of an EO forum is super helpful. Right? Because at the end of the day, guess what? Your team is not going to tell you about your butt. Right? It's like you're saying you're paying their paycheck. Right? So they're not going to tell you about your butt. But you need other people in your life to go, hey, right? People that don't think like you're all that. Right? You know, and I think I know for me, it's like that's what saved my life. Right? Because I can come into situations like this and you know, and I stand on the stage of thousands of people and people just think like I'm awesome. Well, I can just present pretty well. I still got issues, right? I still got things that, you know, I'm dealing with. And I realize if I'm not careful, I can start listening to all the praise and not get like really authentic feedback. So you need people in your life to just like can call you out on your junk. I mean, it saved my marriage. I got friends that go, hey, dude, you don't talk to your wife like that. It's like if I didn't have friends like that, I would not be married. I've been married 30 years and I've had to do a lot of changing. How about you as a takeaway for you?
I really liked that grid too, and I didn't realize how big, I mean, yeah, I'm not happy, like my blind spot's pretty big, right? And I think it's what TJ was saying, is that maybe I don't elicit enough feedback, or it's how I'm asking for it, that it's like, oh, you're good, right?
Yeah, well, one thing about it, have we ever given feedback to somebody who never asked for it?
Yeah, all the time.
Right, yeah, right, we go, right, we're all, right, and we go, yeah, that's never fun though, is it? It's never fun. Right, and we all know people in our lives that you go, yeah, I'm not telling that person anything, just keep failing, right? Because they sort of create this aura around them, right? This guarded, I don't want feedback, right? But if we can actually like create this aura around us, because people feel you before they hear you, right? People sense you. In fact, what they've found in studies is that the heartbeat, the vibration of the heart, goes out 6 feet. Come on, we've all been in places where we've met somebody and you go, okay, they look the right way, they talk the right way, but there's something, yeah, you look the part and you got a great resume, but just something. Because people feel you before they hear you. And you can actually create this aura around you that you just continue to get feedback. So awareness is the first step. In fact, and then let me give you the second part. So what else did the chat say? Bridging the gap between what we know and what we do is emotionally controlled. Here's the deal. I would venture to say 90% of your issues in your business are emotional in nature and only 10% are logical. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have to hire this person and I'm scared we're not gonna be able to make payroll, right? Logical or emotional? Emotional, right? I'm not sure we can sell enough to like justify this. We're going to step out and buy this piece of property, but our income is this, and can we do it? All emotional. And that's, but if 90% of our issues are emotional, what are we doing to fix that? What are we doing? What do people even do to grow that? Most people don't do anything, right? It's like, no, I'm too busy buying the business books. Come on, right? Right? It's like, hey, I'm too big. I want to get the next new, latest and greatest sales technique and, how to manage this and how to operate this and, how to learn this and how to learn this software. But how much time are we spending growing emotionally? Which is why that's why I love being a part of EO and being around EOers is we have these forums and we have these feedback sessions where we can be raw and we can be real and we can be honest. So the first step is awareness, but that's not all. The second thing that we've got to do is we've got to take responsibility. Because if you don't own it, you can't change it. If you don't own it, you can't change it. You can't change anything you don't own. Now this right here, this awareness responsibility, this is a weight loss journey for me. So about 15 years ago, I weighed an extra 70 pounds. So, and I always used to compare myself to other people. Come on, we all do this, right? Right? And I would always say, I'm a little chubby, but I'm not as bad as so-and-so. Okay? In any area of your life, there's always a so-and-so. Whether it's your health, your marriage, your kids, your business, right? People, my kids are not, but they're not as bad as so-and-so's kids, right? And my marriage, that's not as bad as that. There's always a so-and-so. So I had this so-and-so mentality, and my life changed, and I'll never forget it. I remember getting out of the shower. It was in Dallas, Texas, doing a workshop, and it was at the Westin. And I got out of the shower, and I looked in the mirror. And I think part of the problem is that we don't look in the mirror enough, right? We don't have our behavior mirrored back to us. Let me give you a technique to kind of get that going a little bit. So I remember I looked in the mirror, and I didn't use softeners. A lot of times we use softeners on ourselves, right? So so-and-so, I looked at myself and I said, Dennis, I said, you're not a little chubby. You're not a little overweight. Dennis, you're big. You're big as Texas. What happened, right? And I just told the truth. Now, if you're writing notes, here's a writer downer. Nothing happens until you just tell the truth, right? You just tell the truth. In fact, your brain only knows how to work with the truth. When you're just telling a story, your brain doesn't know what to do with that, right? It's like when I got to the point of just telling the truth about what I love and about what I hate. So, you know what, I'm doing this and I really hate this. I really hate doing this. So how do I create a business where, I love Joe Polish, right? Joe Polish has this acronym ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun. And I'm like, and that's it. That's the kind of business. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's what all of us want, right? We want to do a business that's easy, lucrative, and fun. But, if things are I hate these things, why would I create a business where I end up doing things I hate? But it never really started to click with me until I just told the truth. So I just told the truth on myself. And you know what I realized? Here's what I realized. I realized that, what? I never ate a donut accidentally. Right? I never ate a donut accidentally. It's like I saw we have Krispy Kreme in Vegas? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, I love right? Greenville, South Carolina, we got this big Krispy Kreme about 10 minutes from my house and hot now. Mm-hmm. Right? And here's what would happen. I would go to the Krispy Kreme, I would see the donut, I would lust after the donut, I would covet the donut, and I would eat a box of donuts. Right? I wouldn't eat just one donut, I'd eat a box. And here's what I realized. I realized that this is not fat, it's just donuts. That's all this is. Right? In fact, this is just a decision. It's a decision to eat a donut, and this is just an outcome. That's all this is. And watch this. If I want to change the outcome, what do? I got to change my action. Right? If I want a different outcome, I got to change an action. And so I went through this process, and then I was used to blame. You talk about this responsibility. I was used to blame my weight on my wife all the time. Right? So she loves to cook, I love to eat. It's like a great relationship. Right? And then we went through this time where I felt like we were always pregnant. My wife wants to know who we is, but we're together, we're in covenant. So she's pregnant, I'm pregnant. Now here's what's cool about my wife being pregnant, is that she would get pregnant and she would eat. So guess what I would do? I would eat, right? What do you say on the Zoom, right? You say, well, of course, right? You're going to eat. It is the best 9 months of my life. You could eat anything, right? It's eat all the time. I'm eating with her because we're together. And literally, here's what would happen, is that she would give birth, and she is the prettiest lady in the entire world. And she would give birth, and like 3 weeks later, she'd be like this. And I'd be like this. And then she got pregnant again. She would eat, I would eat. She would give birth. 6 weeks later, she'd be like this. And then we got pregnant. I just thought, man, I just didn't have a chance to have a baby. Right? If I could have a baby, you know what I'm saying? If I could have a baby, then boom, it just goes. And we got pregnant. And then
No.
that's what happened. That was a story, right? What story are you telling yourself? Come on, right? In every area, in any of these areas of your life, what story are you telling? That was a story I told myself, right? Then we got pregnant again. Now listen, we finally bought a television and then we stopped getting pregnant. So I had figured out how to stop getting pregnant by television. But I had to step back and realize that, no, you know what? This is just a decision. I made a decision and it created an outcome. So if I want a different outcome, I just had to make a different decision. But if you don't own your stuff, you don't own your actions. And in fact, that's what really being drama-free is all about. It's not having passion. It's not being a robot, but it's just owning your stuff, owning your own emotions, right? Nobody makes you do anything, right? She just makes me mad, right? So Tom, just play a game with me here. Tom, person, this is my mad stick. Okay, so when you do this, I get mad. Okay. Ah! 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 Okay, I'm gonna stop. Okay, now in this scenario, who's in charge of Dennis? I don't know if you can see it on the video. He was doing this. But in this scenario, who was in charge of Dennis?
He was.
Tom, right? Tom. And all of a sudden, I just gave my control. Now, here's where all drama comes from. All drama comes from choice poverty. People believe, oh, there's nothing I can do. Okay, and that's where this drama comes from. So here's the big enemy. Now we're going to go
Can you repeat that? All drama comes again from choice.
choice poverty. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So here, this is the big enemy to responsibility, is down here. Call them the outcome barriers. And I draw this in the form of like a triangle, because I think of this as the Bermuda Triangle. Right, so what happens in the Bermuda Triangle?
Things disappear.
Right, things disappear, right? Well, people fall into what I call the drama triangle, and they just disappear. And there are 3 parts to it. Use the acronym BBR. Okay, so the first part is that people become the victim. It is how it is. Things will never change around here. Right? And we become this victim. And all this victimhood, it really comes out of choice poverty. When you believe there's nothing you can do. And the reality is that you are choice abundant. You are choice abundant. And part of like living drama-free and having a drama-free team is to give choices back to your team. Let them own their own choices, give them choices, right? So for example, my daughter, her first job, so she's 22 right now, but her first job was Chick-fil-A. So she's probably like 15 at the time. And so I remember coming into the kitchen and she had this pouty look on her face. I said, Melissa, what's wrong? She goes, I have to go to work. I have to go to work. Anybody got teenage daughters? Right? That's how they talk. Right? So, I have to go to work. I have to go to work. I said, Melissa, I said, you don't have to go to work. No, I have to go to work. I said, come just sit down for a minute, let's talk. She goes, what? I go, Melissa, here's the deal. I said, you don't have to go to work today at Chick-fil-A. She goes, really? I go, yeah, I don't know. I said, in fact, you never ever have to go back to Chick-fil-A to work ever again. She goes, really? I said, yes, in fact, you never have to work another day in your life. She goes, really? I go, yeah. I said, now, Chick-fil-A will probably stop paying you, right? You probably won't have a job anymore, but you don't have to do anything, right? Because when I say I have to, who's in control of me? Somebody else, right? I got this outside force. And the reality is that you choose. So they're put in the chat, what's one big takeaway so far from today? What's another takeaway? So the different things that we're talking about, what's another takeaway?
Dennis, you had said something earlier, the brain will not create what, and I didn't get the rest of it. But
So
it was-
your brain won't only go to work on what it believes is possible.
Okay, thank you.
Can I see your iPad real quick?
I gotta. Yeah. We're coming. So put there in the chat, drama comes from choice poverty. So who would have thought we'd be doing like workshops like this, right? Who would have thought, yeah? Right, like a year, even like a year ago, right? Or like, 14 months ago. Who would have thought it'd be like this? Now here's what's happened like through COVID. Now Jack Canfield made this really popular. I didn't come up with this. And I'm sure you've seen this before. It's E plus R equals O, which means the events plus my response determines the outcome. Now let me ask you this question. Can anybody control outside events? Yes or no? Right? Crazy political scene that we're in, can we control it? No. Can we control the weather? Right? If you're in Dallas or crazy places like that, right? It's like my flight was canceled. My flight was canceled yesterday, and so I get to stay in Vegas an extra day, right? Can't control that, right? Now, some people, they get mad. Some people, they get mad at the events. And an event is just an event. Now, here's what happened. People got mad about COVID. How many people got mad about COVID? Right? It's like, man, we had shutdown, we had everything that we've had to go through. And some people, they went into drama and they didn't believe E plus R equals O, they believe E equals O. The events that happen around me determine the outcomes. There's nothing I can do. And part of what we want to do when we're trying to get out of the drama is we're trying to give people back their response. We're trying to get people back their creativity. We're trying to get them to try to get back their confidence. But when they just sit here in this victimhood, so it all comes out of choice poverty. So anytime I hear, now here's the fastest way to change culture. The fastest way to change culture is to first change language. If you want to change the culture of your team, you change the language of your team. Because language tells you everything about culture. So part of the privilege that I've had in my career is I spent about 10 years in Eastern Europe. And so I moved to Berlin, East Berlin, back in the day, and learned German. Here's what's amazing about German, okay? Thousands of rules in the German language. But guess how many deviations there are to the rule? Zero, completely none. That's what Germans are. That's why they build great cars, they're great engineers, right? There's all these rules. In fact, it's the easiest language, I think, to learn. And then I moved 3 hours east into Poland. Now here's what's interesting, okay? So I moved to Poland and I started to learn Polish language. There are thousands of rules in the Polish language, just like German. It's worse than English. But guess how many deviations there are to the rule? There's 1,000, right? There's 1,000 deviations to every little nuance, every little case. That's how the Polish are. The great creatives, the great composers come out of Poland because they're creative. The engineers come out of Germany because language really defines culture. So Polish people are. They would tell me, hey, this is how you do this. And I go, okay, but there's about 4 different other ways that you could do it. You could jimmy it this way, and you could go around this, don't go there, go around it. There was never, German, the way is how it is. This is the way. And the fastest way to change culture is to change language. So anytime you hear the things like, I have to, address it. Now here's a writer down. Whatever you don't address, you endorse. Anybody feel that? Like I just felt, like I just said that a bunch of times, and I sort of felt that a little bit, right? Because there's a particular piece of behavior that I was reminded of with my person that does my marketing, and I started to complain to my wife, but you know what? I haven't addressed it. I haven't, and how many times do we do that, right? It's like team members do something, we don't address it, and then we go home and complain to our spouse.
Yeah.
Well, the idiot, please stand up, right? So whatever I don't address, I actually endorse. So we want to always address language. Things like, well, she makes me, they make me, I have to. No, just think how the language, the one little nuance of I have to or I choose to. Because the reality is that you are ridiculously in charge. You're ridiculously in charge of your behavior, right? And you take an action and you get a result, right? I eat a box of donuts, I gain 10 pounds. And then I complain about my weight. Who is the idiot here, right? In fact, watch this. Has anybody ever done this? And put it in the Zoom if you've done this, right? Where you get up in the morning and you step on the scale and then you're pissed off. Anybody been there? Put in the Zoom if you've been pissed off when you stepped on the scale, right? So this just happened because I still have another 20 pounds to lose that I'm working on. And so this happened like 4 days ago, every day. Asad, thank you. Asad, thank you for being honest. All right, we appreciate that, man. Way to go, right? Yeah. And so this happened last week. Is like I got on the scale Sunday morning and I was up 2 pounds and I was pissed. And then I complained to my wife. And then she said, in all of her great wisdom, she said, I asked you if you really wanted to make popcorn last night. I was like, I just wanted to just like throw something at her, right? But think about this. The scale, you know what the scale is? It's just feedback. That's all the scale is. In fact, here's the thing. I don't think you ever fail. You just get feedback. I never fail. I just get feedback, right? Anytime something happens and we don't like knock it out of the park, all it is feedback. Don't get angry about it. I'm like, that's interesting feedback. You think about all of the results, all of the outcomes is just feedback. And so if you want a different outcome, it's got to change you got to change your action. So this happened with a particular hospital system that I was working with, is that I was trying to get a hold of the CFO. And so here's what would happen is I would send him an email and I'd get no response. Next day I'd send an email, no response. Third day, send an email, no response. Has that ever happened in your city, right? So it's been known to happen, right? And then by the fourth day, I'm pissed off. And here's what I thought. I thought, I'm gonna send him another email. Who's the idiot here, right? It's like, I send an email, I get no response. So if I want a different outcome, what do? I just change my action. And that's where we got to teach people, and we've got to just continue to learn ourselves that I'm ridiculously in charge, right? If I want, I can always change a behavior. If I'm doing this behavior and it's not getting the result, then I just got to step back and not get mad about the outcome. I just got to step back and go, okay, what can I do? Because there is always something you can do. So some people, they choose to play the victim. Other people, they choose to play the blamer. Whoever you blame, you actually give power to. Whatever in your life you blame, you actually give power to. And you can't fix what you blame. Now, I got this quote from Dan Sullivan, and it's probably my favorite Dan Sullivan quote. It radically changed my life. He said, here's the deal. He said, you can either complain or you can create. You just can't do both at the same time. You can either complain or you can create, but you can't do both at the same time. Now, that's a writer downer. That's a put on your wall. That's a tell your team, right? Because how many times does this happen, right? Somebody comes to you and says, hey, TJ, I just need to vent, right? Oh, yeah, I just need to vent. What happens with that, right? Nothing. And there's a Jewish proverb that says that where there is no wood, there is no fire. But many times when we're venting, guess what we're doing? Put wood on that fire, put wood on that fire, put wood on that fire. Which is why I told you, like, the first thing that you've got to work on in changing culture is changing language. You can fix language, you can change culture. I mean, what's great here about what Tom has as I'm walking through his building, he's got all of his core values painted on the wall. Right? You know what all that is? That's just language. All that is just language.
We subscribe to the drawn triangle too.
Okay, so
Be a creator, core value number one.
no drama.
No, it's be a creator.
Be a creator,
That's
yeah.
the opposite of the drawn
Yeah,
triangle.
it absolutely is a drama. Absolutely a drama. Now, here's where it gets really, really wicked. Is you can play the blamer, you can play the victim, you can play the blamer, or what happens with many leaders is that they play the rescuer. Step in and save the day. Right? Right now, here's the fatal management flaw. Okay, this is classic rescue. The fatal management flaw. Now, tell me if this is not you. Okay, it's you doing the work of the people you're supposed to be managing. Come on, tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
We say things like, well, it's just easier. It's gonna take me like 5 minutes. I'm just gonna take care of it, right? But here's what happens. I'm doing your work, I'm doing my work, and then I'm pissed off. And then I go complain to my spouse. Who is the idiot here? Now, to really kind of understand this idea, because really what happens is that when you step in and you rescue your team, you actually create victims. So here's maybe a way to explain this. So is anybody here on the Zoom or here live? Has anybody ever been to Sarasota, Florida? All right, Tom's been to Sarasota. Put in the chat. It's easier. It is easier to play the rescuer. You're right. So anybody here in the chat been to Sarasota, Florida? So if you ever go to Sarasota, Florida, I want you to go to 2401 8th Street, apartment number 6. Okay, Andrea, yeah, Corian's been to Sarasota. Okay, so I'm giving you this address because you got to see this particular apartment. So this particular apartment has a magic bathroom floor. I've never seen one like it ever since, but this is a magic bathroom floor. So I married my wife. She's from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and moved her down to Sarasota, Florida. And we had this particular little apartment there on 8th Street. And here's what would happen is that I would get up in the morning and I would get ready for work and I would take my PJs and I would whip them corner of the bathroom and I would go to work. And I would come home 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. True story. I come home, spotless. It's awesome. Completely cleaned up. Next day, whip it in, come back, spotless. After about a week, here's what I thought. I thought, works with PJs. I wonder if it works with other crap, right? And so I just dumped stuff on the bathroom floor, come home, we picked up. Now, my wife's a total saint, okay? It took her about a month to have a come to Jesus meeting with me, okay? But here's what I guarantee you. I guarantee you that for 30 years, we've been married 30 years this year, if she was willing to pick up my stuff from the bathroom floor, guess what I would be willing to do? I would keep throwing it out there, right? And so here's what happens is that when we rescue our team, right, when we enable them, when we come in, and here's where this codependent relationship happens sometimes. And here's what I love. How do I say this? Right? Here's what I love about EOers, and here's what I hate about EOers. It's a love-hate relationship that I have with all entrepreneurs, okay? What I love about you, true, great entrepreneurs, they really care about building a great team. They really do. They really care for their team. You know what I hate about y'all? Sometimes you care too much, right? You just care too much. And every constraint in your life is a strength overextended. So every constraint that you have is typically a strength that you've overextended. Now, here's one way that we rescue our team. So, Tom, this is what you need me to do. Okay, so this is the assignment. So here, just tell me what to do. Dennis, go do this.
You don't want me to beat you at the bed?
No, don't just give it to me. Tell me, go do this. Okay.
All right, go do this.
Great. Whatever I'm doing, I don't know. I'm building a
Go run
software.
around the office.
I'm gonna go run around the office. Okay, right. So Tom told me what to do, right? So Tom told me what to do. So I go and do it. Crashes and burns. Doesn't work. Fails. I come back to Tom and I say, Tom, I did what you told me to do. And what have I just done with the responsibility?
Give it back.
Handed it
Gave
back.
it right back to Tom. Right? And so one of the classic ways that we end up rescuing people is we end up telling them what to do. Right? Because think about it, and this is how we create these adult to children relationships. Right? They're just a bunch of idiots. They just got to tell them what to do. And when we tell, nothing changes. So for me to sort of like give you this idea, I want to go to number 4, the drama-free mind control formula. So I know Krupa didn't know I was going to do this. They didn't. I know you didn't sign up for this today, but we're going to do some mind control. So and what's cool is that we can even do it via Zoom. That's how powerful I am. Okay, so I'm going to control everybody's mind in the room, and I'm also going to control your mind over Zoom. Okay. But really quick before I do that, I meant to start this presentation with this with this question, but, so I'm in Vegas for one more day, but where's the best place to eat in Vegas? Or better yet, what did everybody have for dinner last night? And so even on this Zoom, I want you to put in the chat, gotta play my games. What did you have for dinner? We're just gonna take a quick survey and it's gonna help me kind of decide, because I always like to do that at the beginning of a presentation, ask people what they had for dinner the night before. So what, just,
Popeye, chicken
how
Popeye.
about chicken
I have
pie?
a coach make all my meals.
You have a cook make all your meals?
Yeah.
Oh, man, what do you have? What do
It
they
was, I
cook?
think, lamb, sweet potatoes, and Brussels
Yeah,
sprouts.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I'm on a liquid diet right now. so
Liquid
protein
diet,
shake.
today, liquid, salmon and zucchini, baked chicken, salad, nothing on fasting, was chicken, stew. Then what'd you have?
Barbecued ribeye steak.
Barbecue ribeye steak, awesome.
Salmon.
What's that?
Salmon.
Salmon, love it.
Lasagna.
Lasagna, okay, put it in the chat. Would you have chicken wing, sausage spinach, flour child, salmon chili? Yeah, I think I'm gonna do some chicken.
Bagel bites.
Bagel bites. Hey, gotta tell the truth, right? Gotta tell the truth. Nothing changes. So, here's a quick question. How many people here 10 minutes ago were thinking about dinner last night?
Nope.
What did I do? I controlled your mind. I controlled your mind. Now, watch this. I cannot read your mind, but I can absolutely control your mind. So how do I control your mind?
Question?
By question, right? And we call this QuickFar. Is Q, questions determine your thoughts. Thoughts determine your feelings. Feelings determine your actions, and actions drive your results. QTFAR. Right.
Questions?
Questions drive your thoughts. Thoughts drive your feelings. Feelings drive your actions, and actions drive your results. We call it QuickFar. The challenge is that it happens in about a nanosecond, right? Really, the reality is that we are all living inside of the questions that we ask ourselves. And if you want different results, you just got to ask some different questions. You got to come up with some different questions, because your questions are driving your results. And you know what's interesting? Questions create these like open loops inside of your brain that demand an answer. Right? What's the weather like where you are right now? Wherever you are in the world, what's the weather like? You know, Vegas, we're like about low 60s, right? What's the weather like? Once in a generation cold, right? Well, watch this. You can choose not to answer my question, right? Some of you in chat, some people here live are like, I ain't saying anything anymore, right? I ain't answering that, right? Yeah, exactly, right? And watch this. You don't even have to put in the chat your answer, right? You don't even have to say anything in the chat. Well, what did your brain immediately do? It thought about the weather, right? So you can't ignore a question. It's like questions create open loops inside of your brain that demand an answer. So in fact, here's what happens. We all live inside of the questions that we ask ourselves. Now, I'm going to give you, now, and here's why, like as leaders, questions go down, answers come up. Which means as a leader, you should be the biggest question asker. Questions go down, answers come up. In fact, he who asks the question controls the conversation. Right? Have you ever asked a question and got answered back, and then they answered you back with a question? Right? Has that ever happened? Yeah, it's happened. Right? So my son, my second son is a master at this. So I remember he was a senior at Clemson, and he came home from spring break. And here's what I love about college kids that come home for spring break. You know the best thing about it is they go back. So that's the best thing about college kids coming home for spring break. So he went back. But I remember he came home on a Saturday, and my wife had this list of stuff for him to do. She wanted to mow the lawn and different things. And she says, Stephen, are you gonna mow the lawn? And he immediately asked her a question. She answered. And he asked her another question, and she answered. And I watched it was like for 10 minutes, it was like a lamb being led to the slaughter. Where my son took my wife on this little journey for about 10 minutes. And 10 minutes later, he had grabbed his soccer bag and was gone for the day to play soccer. And I said, Lisa, I said, I thought you won. She goes, oh my gosh, you got me. Totally got you. Because he who asks the question controls the conversation. And here's what happens many times when we rescue people is that we tell them. Now, how many times, now I know this is true because I have just done enough surveys with leaders, is one of the chief complaints that people tell me in managing their teams is, man, if my people could just think, right? If they could just think at a higher level. Well, they don't think differently because you're not asking the right questions. In fact, watch this. If you want them to think like you, then teach them the questions that you ask yourself. What are the questions that you go through when you're making decisions? What are the questions that you go through when you're doing whatever these different assignments are? And you teach them the questions. And then they'll start to think like you. Because we all live inside of the questions that we ask ourselves. So I mentioned before, it's like, some people, they take an event and they just like waste an event. Like, here's what I've realized with COVID. A lot of people have wasted COVID. I don't know about you, but like, I went into drama for about 5 days, right? Because I had like, at the very beginning of the shutdown, I think we counted up 33 events that either postponed or canceled in like 5 days. 33. In fact, one of the calls was from Tom.
This was one of them.
This was one of them, right? And in fact, I remember it said Vegas, and I was like, I know what this is. And I remember I was at a gas station, and I looked at it, and I thought, I'll send this thing to voicemail, right? Because it was probably about the 15th call like this that I've gotten, right? And so after I got out of the emotion, I stepped back and I asked my team, I said, hey, what does this make possible? What does this make possible? And just that one question changed the entire mindset of my team. It changed the entire direction. Winston Churchill, he said, don't waste a good obstacle. Don't waste a good, and in fact, I don't know about you guys. I don't think we have any of the World War II generation on the call. Maybe we do. I think they're pretty much all passed away, but I got a little tired about hearing about the greatest generation. You guys ever get tired about this? Like the greatest, but here's what I realized. I think the only reason they were the greatest generation is they had a really big obstacle. And I think this obstacle that we're going through, it's going to make us the greatest generation, right? Never ever seen a worldwide pandemic, right? It's like, we're the greatest generation. All of us here, we're the greatest generation. So these obstacles, they actually make us. But I sat with my team and I said, okay, let's get out of the drama. What does this make possible? Now, let me give you, okay, I'm going to do this. It typically ends up being a fight, but let's do this real quick, okay? Is I'm going to give you the one question that generates most of the drama in teams. In fact, it's the one question that leaders use that generates almost all of the drama in teams. So just work with me here, but here's how it goes. So TJ, just play a little bit, play a game with me. TJ's right here to my left. So TJ, I come up to you and I say, TJ, why'd you do that? Why'd this happen? Why'd this happen?
I don't know.
What's your initial reaction?
Closed off.
Closed off, right? Defensive, right? Now, part of our job as leaders is to create safe places. People's brains operate in safe places, right? When they're safeguarded, they're not creative, they're not collaborative. When I'm spending all my energy trying to create safety, I'm not going to be creative. And when we come to people with why, it puts them defensive, right? All of a sudden, they're either going to fight, flight, or freeze. They immediately go back here to the brainstem. Okay. Now, we're sitting here, and I understand as leaders and with our businesses, right? We have mistakes. We have things we have to correct, right? We have things that don't happen well, right? And so all of us are sitting here. You probably may be thinking like, well, how do you get to the bottom of things? What do you mean? We got to find out why, right? So I'll never forget. I was working with this company in New Hampshire, and I remember I was in a team meeting with Henry. It was Henry. And so I remember walking out of the team meeting, and in New Hampshire, he had some team members that didn't like do what they were supposed to do that week, right? They dropped the ball, they didn't hit objectives. Does that happen? Does that happen here, right? It happens, right? So I'll never forget, I was walking out of the meeting, and Henry was like, I want to know why they don't do this and why this isn't mad. I was like, Henry, you don't want to know why? He said, no, I want to know why. No, you should tell me why. And I couldn't get him off it, so I said, fine. I said, we're gonna find out why. I said, here's what we're gonna do. I said, I am going to go buy a really, really nice couch, okay? And I'm gonna lay it in the corner of your office, okay? And I said, I'm gonna interview this person. Now listen, I spent my first 15 years of my career in marriage and family therapy, okay? And so I know how to do this, okay? I know how to get some of this stuff out. And I said, Henry, I said, it's gonna take us about a year, and we're probably gonna find out that, when he was 2 or 3 years old, his dad left him. And it was really traumatic, and he puts you as a father figure in his life. So he's trying to control your emotions by not being honest and trying to hide things because he doesn't want you to be mad, because he doesn't want you to reject him. Because he has this rejection issue, this abandonment issue, and Henry's eyes glazed over in his head. And so I'm going to ask you guys the same question I asked Henry. Do you really, really want to know why? Or do you just want the behavior changed? What do you guys say live? Just want behavior change, right? Yeah. Right? Trust me, I mean, after 15 years of like marriage and family therapy, you do not want to know why. There's a reason I don't go after why anymore. So now, all of us there thinking on the Zoom call, thinking alive, well, what do we do? I've just messed you up. So here's the formula. Okay, we call this the drama-free question matrix. Let me give you a formula. This is for free. We didn't plan to give this, but I thought, hey, we're going to give you something extra. It's what or how plus an action. Right? Something happens. What are you going to do? How can you solve this? What's a possible solution? How can you make this better? How can we improve this? What am I going to do? Now, if you secretly have to know why, so you got to get to the bottom of this, you can also ask, hey, how did this come about? What transpired here? Guess what you're finding out? You're finding out why. But you know what you're not getting? You're not getting the emotional sting. You're not getting the fight, flight, or freeze. Because that question why typically sends your team into their own drama, where all of a sudden they're not creative, they're not collaborative, they're not confident. And many times we want people to think at a higher level, but we're always asking why. So real quick, give me some feedback. What's been a good takeaway? So in the chat, what's been like a really, really helpful takeaway? And we'll ask everybody here live. So PJ, what was a helpful takeaway so far? Put it in the chat. You gotta play my game. So even though you're on Zoom and you're like, I don't know, you're in your pajamas, or I know some of you, you're not even like showing your screen. Thomas, we don't even know what you're probably not even wearing anything. Okay, I totally got it. It's fine. Okay.
Well, you're rescuing by telling people stuff, and it's been interesting because I realized that a while ago, and I've been trying to wean people off of it.
Yeah.
But now it's pissing them off when I'm not giving them the answer, when I'm asking them questions to try to get them to do it themselves. So I'm trying to figure out how I can ask the questions better to help them wean off.
Right, because actually what they're wanting is they're wanting to play the child.
Yeah, they're so dependent on it.
Yeah.
I made them dependent.
Right, and here's what happens, like everybody brings their own culture to your team. And
Yeah.
part of your job is to train people on your culture. And many times it's like, this is the game that you want to like play. If I want my team to think like me, ask questions, I would ask myself. Yeah, I would go through and just like write down, here are the 4 questions that I asked myself for this. These are the 2 questions that I asked myself, and teach them the questions. Because we want them to think at a higher level, we gotta start asking them different questions. Now, typically, here's what happens. Here's the best question. So a problem happens. Questions equal outcomes, questions drive results. So here's what typically happens. Somebody has a problem, right? They bring you a problem. So Tom, this is your problem. Tell me your problem. What's your problem? I don't know.
I'm hungry.
Right, Tom's hungry. Right? Tom says, Dennis, I'm hungry. Right? Tom, what do you want to do about that problem you have? What do you want to do about that problem you have? So instead of answering the question, because whose problem is it? Tom's hungry. Whose problem is that? Right? Here's what happens many times, right? It's like maybe like they come in like 15 minutes late. 15 minutes late, 15 minutes late, 15 minutes late, right? You go, hey, you got to set your alarm. Can you set your alarm? Listen, Does anybody here in the room want to like solve the problem of like trying to get people to work on time?
Yeah,
Right? Yeah, no, it's like, right. That's not a problem. Like, but many times, like we step in and we create solutions instead of stepping back and going, hey, what do you want to do about that problem you have? Because here's what I love about that question. It presupposes a couple different things. It presupposes that your people are powerful. If you don't believe they're powerful, then get them off your team. Right? Just get them off your team. They are powerful and they can solve their own problems. In fact, if you were here live with us, nobody knows this, but I actually have a tattoo gun. And so we're going to be tattooing everybody that's here. What are you going to do about that problem you have? Almost like get really good at that question. Right? And then here's typically, so we're gonna get, we said 7:30?
Yeah.
7:30 Vegas time. Okay, so are you okay if we go advanced? We're gonna just like go all out tonight. Okay? All right. So
Roll with it.
let's roll with it. Okay, so if you start to use questions, okay, you start to change the dynamic. Here's the biggest drama phrase, and I don't know if you've ever heard this one before, but here's how it goes. I don't know. Right? Wherever dialect you're from, right? I don't know. Right? And typically, what do people do after they say, I don't know? Nothing, right? They do nothing. They just look at you. So can I give you a two-part formula to eliminate I don't know? If you use this two-part formula, you will not hear I don't know. Okay, so here's how it goes. Now, have I developed enough trust on Zoom that you go, hey, this guy probably knows what he's talking about. Have I done enough of that here locally? Because I'm going to give it to you and you're going to go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I'm telling you, it totally works. Okay? So people say, well, I don't know. You go say, great. You don't know. Suppose you did know. What's a possible answer? Suppose you did know what's a possible answer. And here's what people will do. They will do this. They will look up to this place of logic and they will give you an answer. Now, what I want to do is I want to say, I thought you said you didn't know, but that's not good leadership. That's not good leadership. Okay, so don't, but it is on the tip of my tongue, right? I just want to sing them. Okay? Right? But here's what you're going to find. About 60 to 70% of the time, they're going to give you an answer. They're just going to give you an answer. Now, if they're in super high drama, right? And then you have to ask them the second part. Now, the second part is really kind of fun. Okay, so the second part is I ask them, okay, who's the smartest person you know? They look at you like you're an idiot. I go, your dad, your mom, your best friend, your sister. They go, oh, my dad. I go, great. What would your dad do? And the other part of the time they give an answer. Because remember, here's part of this formula, is that people are in the bottle of their own behavior. And that question is what you're doing is you're getting them to step out of their behavior and look back at themselves. And that's what you're doing with that. Now remember, you're just practicing mind control. Right? You're going around just controlling people's minds. And you're just doing it by the questions that you ask. So when they get into that, I don't know, it's like you want to use those questions to get them to step outside and look back at it. And here's what you find. Think about this. Typically, what if the smartest person they know is me?
I love it.
There's always one in the crowd, isn't there? Right? There's always one that's gonna like mess up every illustration, right? There's always one. See, but here's what happens. Like if we're not careful, one of the biggest ways that we enable people is just by doing all the telling. It's the biggest way. Now, here's the thing. It's easier. It is absolutely easier, right? It can be faster. Now, listen, let me give you the caveat, okay? Because you're probably sitting there going, man, we don't have time to just ask like 50 questions about one thing. We've got things where you're really fast. We got to keep. There will be times when you just need to tell, right? It's like you're acting like a child. I'm just going to tell you, okay? But after the heat of battle, you should have a coaching session and go back to that situation and say, hey, remember that scenario where I told you what to do in this situation? it's like, hey, let me work through like another way that we want to handle this. And then you have that coaching conversation, but you don't have it right there, like in the heat of battle. So we're going to get to some of the questions, but let me just give you the drama-free reality check. Okay. Here's the drama-free reality check. Is this right here, this gap of drama, here's where it happens. It happens between expectation and results. The bigger the gap, the bigger the drama. Now, I am not saying lower expectations, but I wanted us to have high expectations, but continue to move the reality. Continue to move that reality. If the gap is that short, there's less drama. Now, this is my marriage problems right here. I don't know if anybody has this right here, right? My wife expects that I'm going to do the dishes. The reality is I don't always do them, right? She expects me to make the bed when I get up in the morning. The reality is I just don't do it. Now here's the thing. All progress starts when you just tell the truth. And just start to tell the truth on yourself. And just like look reality in the face and just tell the truth. This is what it is, right? If you have drama, you have it. Okay, just tell the truth and then you can deal with it. So Krupa, let's go through some of the questions. Make sure that we get, people had questions or they had things that they wanted us to cover.
Well, I mean, the first question I eyeballed was, what if I'm the smartest person I know?
So if you have any questions, just put it there in the chat. Krupa's going to go, because I just want to make sure that we really itch where it's scratching. I've got about 40 other frameworks that I could have shared, but I just want to make sure that we kind of itch where it's scratching.
Well, I don't see any on the chat, but I got cut out. So if anyone has questions, literally just go off of mute and ask them live.
Does anybody have any questions here live?
I've got one. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Sean Clancy from Vegas. So I was just starting to type this. So what's back to your triangle as far as creating a victim? So what happens if I have an employee that continues to come to me to complain about the performance of another employee? Should I tell them just, you have to handle it and deal with it? Or they're coming to me to try to correct their problem on an ongoing basis?
So is that the problem that you want to solve?
Yes.
Well, hold on. Is that your problem or is it their problem?
It would be their problem, my responsibility.
Okay, that is a fantastic statement, John, because here's where it gets really, really like it's a sticky wicket, because the fruit of the issue is theirs, or the root of the issue is theirs, but you're going to eat the fruit of it, right? So that's part of why this makes it a little bit sticky. My encouragement is I would just ask them what they want to do about that problem they have.
Repeat that one more time. Can you say that one more time? That's not.
So they come to you and say, hey, this person's always complaining. I would say, well, gosh, what do you want to do about that problem you have?
Okay.
And get them to see that it's also their problem.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
It's not. And part of this is not just like us learning to have like adult to adult conversations with our team, but also training our team to have adult to adult conversations with each other. Hey, just for a free gift, if you want, I have a 7-part framework called When Dealing with Me that gets intentions out on the table. And so if that would be helpful, I can send that to everybody on the call.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll absolutely do that. Is there really a difference between asking why versus how or what? So here's what happens with why. Especially even like when you ask yourself why does this always happen? Why do I always blank on a blank? There's not an answer. You know what? It sends me down my own like spool of victimhood. And that's why do you always put your foot in your mouth? And that's why do you always overpromise? Why do you always think you can do more than really? Why do you always think people can do? And typically there is no answer. So I send myself down a hole of victimhood, but then also it creates this place where it becomes unsafe with my team. Whereas I'm always putting them on the defensive. And so you can find out You can find out root cause analysis by just using power what. Oh, it says, what's the M in the pyramid of growth? Okay, so that's the next workshop. So we'll follow. That's how you get invited back. Right? That's how speakers get invited back, right? What's the M? It's like, that's part 2, right? Okay, yeah, so let's give you that. Let's give you the M. Okay, so here's how it starts, is that you get awareness, you take responsibility, and then M is motivation. You do it, and guess what you did again? Some more awareness. Take responsibility. Do it, and guess what you did again? More awareness. This is why it's the pyramid of growth. The challenge with this right here is this is just pain. And people grow to their pain tolerance. People only grow to their pain tolerance. And I think the tough part about life is that people start to like get to a point in their life where they start to create a life where it doesn't require any harm. It doesn't require any growth. And I think that when you stop growing, I think that's when God starts to call the parts back. Right? It's like, oh, they stopped growing, right? It's like, how many, what's the, I forget what the averages are when people retire, what is like 5 years later, they pass away, right? Or something crazy like that, right? Because it's just like, you just stop growing. So you just, I think as entrepreneurs, here's what I've learned as an entrepreneur is that it's like, it's a lifelong sentence, right? It's like, here's the thing, all of us in the room, all of us on the Zoom, right? You're really unemployable. Just think about it, right? I am totally unemployable. Like I wouldn't hire myself, right? It's like, no way would I hire myself, right? So no, I wouldn't, right? And the reality is you wouldn't go to work for anybody else, right? It's like, right? So it's sort of like, it's a lifelong sentence. The same thing I told my wife, right? I remember telling my wife when we first got married about the first year, I said, hey, I said, here's the deal. I said, if you ever decide to leave me, just tell me where we're going, because I'm coming with. Right? I'm coming with, all right? I said, this is a lifelong sentence we got going on, right? I said, so we just got to figure it out. And it's almost like that, you know, as an entrepreneur, is that this process, this our process, it continues to go on and on and on and on. So I want everybody to put into the chat. Well, first of all, are there any other questions? Because I want to make sure we cover any questions.
Hi, I have a question. So how do you ask for feedback when your senior leadership team might be intimidated by you? And those are the people that I want the feedback from most.
Yeah, perfect. So one, here's my suggestion. I'm going to send everybody the 7-part framework. And what it does is it really clarifies like your intentions. Because here's what happens. Okay, this is really a trust issue is what you got going on. And so typically when trust is low, intentions are misread. Right? Like trust is like oxygen in the organization. Right? And it's like when you have oxygen deprivation, one of the first things that happen is people hallucinate. Right? Before they die, they start to see things that aren't there. They're losing oxygen. They start to hallucinate. So part of what I want you to think about is that when trust is low, typically people start to read meanings into things. And this 7-part framework really, Eileen, it tells people your intention. Because that's really what you got going on. It's like, you need their feedback, but you're asking, and then Tom and I are like, why does she need our feedback? Or what is she thinking? Right, well, why is that? Right, so all of a sudden, like, Tom and I just misread your intention. And so just being able to clarify that intention. And so it goes through 7 questions, and it would be a great just to sit and share with your team. Does that help answer that? It's a great question because you're also paying them, right? They're also on payroll.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, well, I don't want to tell her this because, hey, I really like my job. Hey, I'd really like to get a bonus, right?
Yeah, I'm not getting the honest feedback because I feel like they're afraid of their jobs, but it's like, you know, we're trying to make things right.
Yeah. And so that's where if you walk through the 7-part framework, okay, it's going to help clarify your intentions. and get your ideas out, like this is me.
Mhm.
Because part of what you have is, and it goes back to like, if anybody's ever read Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, right? Where the goal is like build trust. And then if I have trust, the very next thing if I really have trust, I should have conflict. If I really have trust, because think about it, everybody in the room, you know the person I have the most conflict with? Guess who it is, Eileen? Who do you think the person I have the most conflict with in my life?
Yourself.
Yeah, myself, yeah, at times. Yeah, but then my wife, right? We conflict about everything. Where we're going to spend money, where we're going to go out for dinner, what the kids are going to do, where we're going on vacation. Now, when I say conflict, I'm not saying like yelling, screaming, fistfights, but just passionate debate so that we get like this clarity. But typically, like if you don't have high trust, people won't go into that place of conflict with you and have those honest conversations. And so that really, at the end of the day, is a trust issue. And one of the fastest ways to do it is I'll make sure that you get that document. And once you answer it and then you share that with your team, they're going to help kind of understand your intentions. Can we see the 3 outcome barriers? Can't see what you have for B, blamer. It's victim, blamer, rescuer. It comes from Stephen Karpman, who I used a lot in psychotherapy.
What's his name?
Stephen Karpman. And so you can, but we used it a lot in psychotherapy. And you know what's interesting is the same problem that we did. All the things that I told people in therapy. Guess what? They work in business. Because at the end of the day, you're in the behavior change business. We are all in the behavior change business. So plus unclear on the drama-free mind control formula. So it's questions that you ask determine the thoughts that you think. The thoughts that you think determine the feelings you have. The feelings you have determine the actions you take. And the actions you take determine the results you get. So it starts with questions. Questions are driving thoughts. And in fact, it's a great way to have a conversation you can take quick far. One of the fastest ways to have a drama-free conversation is to go action, feeling, thinking. So take quick far and turn it on its head. Hey, Tom, when you come in 15 minutes late every day, right, just an action, I feel frustrated because I think you don't care about your job. Can you help me? And all of a sudden, what it does is it helps me own my own emotions. It helps me not get mad at Tom. It's just the action. I'm going to own it. I do feel angry, but this is what I think. And then when he knows what I think, guess what we can have? We can have a logical conversation about my thinking. So you can take quick far and you can flip it on its head.
In that example, though, doesn't it almost sound like if I were the one saying that to Tom, I'm making how I feel about it his problem?
Mm-hmm. Now, if they are codependent, they will try to take it as a problem. But if you say it, here's the thing. If you say it, you won't display it. That is part of the key things with emotions is if you just say it, you lessen the chances of displaying it. Right? Because if I don't say I'm angry, I'm going to come with edge. It's still there, right? It's there. It is what it is, right? It's like, it's my emotion. But I have to own it. Part of the reason I own it is so that I don't sort of come after him that way. Any other questions that we have? Yeah.
So that email about the 2, 2, and 2 that
Yeah.
you you preface that? Like, what do you say? Like, oh, this is what I'm trying to do, or you just, hey,
Hey, you know, in my book,
yeah.
I have the exact language and the exact script. No, what I can do is I can send you the script. So a couple things that I want to do for everybody here today is I want to send you the 7 questions that kind of get the attentions out. I will send you the script for the email. You just modify it yourself because that's a great question, right? So You just don't start off the email like, hey, what do I need to start, stop, and continue? Right. Yeah, I'll show you how to like frame that. And then the third thing that I want to do is I want to give you the top 20 coaching questions that our clients have said, Dennis, these have been the 20 questions that we use that totally eliminates all of the drama in our team. So here's what I want you to do that. And we can just send you a link to download everything, is just send a text to 864-901-7315 and just put drama free. And then my team will shoot that out to you, that link, and you can just download it all. So it's 864-901-7315.
What are some of the follow-up conversations you have with people when you request feedback? And when do you have it?
With the 222?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have it as soon as possible.
How much time do you allow yourself to process your emotions around it?
I don't know. How long does it take you to process it?
I don't know. Depends on what I hear.
Depends on what you get. Right.
There might be a few walls to punch, things happen.
There might. Right. It could be really challenging. Yeah, but you do it as soon as possible. As soon as you can. And that's a great question. Like, if you're emotional about it, then yeah. Yeah, just deal with your own. So here is, let me give you one more framework and then we're done. Does this helpful? Yeah, has this been helpful?
Real quick, when you say how you feel and what it makes you think, at the end you say, can you help me? So Tom, when you come in 15 minutes late every day, I feel frustrated because I think you don't care about your job. Can you help me? Is that what you said? Okay, so that makes it so that they're part of creating a solution with you.
Yeah. So and I'm giving you guys an email to send to if you're from the Philippines or from different places, and it's easier just in an email. You can do that too. So here's what's interesting is that word, can you help me, is a softener. And what it does is it gives people space. And here's what's great about that word, can you help me? Everybody likes to help. Hey, can you help me with this, right? Hey, you're really acting like a jerk. Can you help me? Right? Really acting like a jerk today. Can you help me understand? Not quite, don't use that, okay?
In cross-cultural interactions, have you actually seen that work? Because I've actually had people come back and say, no.
So let me tell you where it works super well. It works in Western Europe really well. Yeah.
Eastern Europe, not so much.
Eastern Europe, not so much. Yeah. The Western Europe, it works super well. Africa, it works super well. I think you get into some of like the Southeast Asia, a little bit you get into South America, right? I think the truth is harder and harder to get. And that's really what you're after. You're just after, if you just, the truth. And we can work on the truth. But just create these safe places. Good. Can I give you one more framework or are we done?
One more. Let's do it.
Okay, one more. We'll be done. We'll do it in 5 minutes. So since this has been a lot about feedback, the one framework that I didn't share with you is how to do feedback, okay? So here's the goal of feedback. Typically when people come to you with come to give you feedback or you give people feedback, it is typically to try to solve the problem, yes or no? Right? So we're gonna fix this thing right now. I'm gonna give you some feedback. And so I'm trying to solve it. Now, typically, if you don't do the first S and the O, it never is solved. Here is the first goal of feedback. The first goal of feedback is to help people see it. I'll never forget this. This one lady, she just never got like her expense report in on time, right? And the owner is like, this is such a problem. This is such a problem. It's such a problem. For like months, it's a problem. I was like, have you ever had a conversation? No. Nobody's ever given her that feedback. No. I said, here's the thing. I said, it's not a problem. It's what is that? Yeah. So she doesn't think she has a problem. So guess what? No problem. No problem. Right. So the first goal of feedback is to help people see it. That's it. Okay, if you just try to go after solve it and they don't see it, it's not gonna work. So here's one, and this is in the coaching questions. It's when behavior, how do you think you come across? Or how do you think you're perceived? Or how do you think you show up? When behavior, when action, whatever it is, when you no call, no show, when you give your expense reports a week late every single month, how do you think you come across? Because here's what you're trying to do with that question, is they're in the bottle of their own behavior, and you're trying to get them to step outside of that behavior and look back at it and comment on it and help them see it. If they don't see it, you can't solve it. So you want them first to see it, and then you want them to own it. And the great question to help people own it is simply, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Now, here's what's interesting. Once people see it and they own it, guess what's super simple? Solving it. Solving it just like takes care of itself, right? The hardest thing is to help people see it. And then you help them own it. And this is really the drama-free formula in a little acronym. See it, own it, solve it. Rinse and repeat over and over again. Oh, it's even being recorded? Good job. That's awesome. Okay, so any other comments? Any other questions? We want to honor everybody's time. It's 7:29 Vegas time.
I think you succeeded. I am a little angry.
Awesome. Awesome. Anybody on the Zoom call angry? A little bit irritated. It's like, crap, why have I been putting up with this? Right? Why is this? Yeah, listen, so I want to just come back to, do you agree with me? There are no bad teams, there are just bad leaders.
Yeah.
Right? Because if my problem is my team, then I'm just the victim. Can't do anything about it. Right? It is how it is. But I am ridiculously in charge. So there are no bad teams, there are just bad leaders. And I want to tell everybody tonight on the Zoom call here live, I think at times, like, entrepreneurs get bad raps sometimes. Because people say things like, well, it's, you're just in it for the money. It's all about the money. And I've never met a great entrepreneur that ever thought that way. The great ones, it's all about how can we help people, how can we serve people. And so I just want to tell you, just thank you. Thank you for starting businesses. Thank you for starting your business. Thank you for serving people. Thank you for employing people. Right? You know, it's like one of the best things that I did is I just sat my team down during COVID and I said, here's the deal. If you're going to stay with me, I'll stay with you. Nobody loses your job. I have no idea how to do this, so I just wanted to tell you guys, just thank you. Thank you for starting businesses. Thank you for solving problems. Thank you for being entrepreneurs. This is a bit of a world changer. So that's why I came out with you guys. Awesome.
Oh, wow, this is awesome. Thank you.
Every time I've hung out with EOers, I've heard this refrain, and I think, Tom, this originally came from you, but I heard it from Adam, so I will keep attributing this one to Adam, and he will keep, directing me to you. It's the whole, anytime you go to one of these things, see if you can pick up one little nugget.
Yeah.
I got nuggets coming out of my pores here today. So thanks very, very much. And thank you, Tom, for, introducing us to Dennis so he could come here today and share all of this wisdom with us.
Yeah.
It was worth the wait, hey?
I definitely think so. I mean, you by far exceeded all my expectations for today.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah, I'm actually sad I waited a year to see it. Yeah, good.
Well, it's even better now because I know a little bit more, right, than I did a year. I got better stories. I got COVID stories now, right? I got real COVID stories.
And also a huge thank you to all of you who participated virtually. You kept us going and, asked us questions, so on and so forth. Administratively, if you scroll up in the chat, and maybe I can request Christine to put up the link to the feedback form. If you can all take about a minute to fill that out before you sign off, it'll help us do better events as we go forward. I know we're all here from different time zones, so very much appreciate you taking the time, irrespective of how inconvenient it might have been, to join us today. Thank you.
Awesome.
All
How
right.
many people were on there?